An element of cooking that seems to be kind of an afterthought or even overlooked today in our home kitchens is a sauce. Now in the 18th century, a sauce was included with a lot of dishes, and they pined after it, and they wrote that they wanted a sauce. Now sometimes that's because the quality of their ingredients wasn't very good and they needed something to help them swallow it down. And other times they just realized that there's a sauce component on a plate that can pull everything together. Now we know that too in a modern sense, and we get that when we go out to restaurants. Oftentimes when we're at home, we get it by accident. And that is because we're cooking a lot differently than they did in the 18th century, and we do a lot of things with one pot dishes, which creates a sauce or a broth. And then you can just kind of jazz that up a little bit and there's your sauce. Or else we go to the grocery store and there's a whole aisle filled with sauces and dressings and packets that we can create those things. But what about cooking them from scratch? Do we do that a whole lot today? I know that a lot of people are kind of going back to that because they're realizing that what comes in a jar or a bottle isn't necessarily the best food for you, but we've been away from it for some time. So what I want to do today is look at some really great sauces from the 18th century that I think are going to fit really well into your home kitchen. Cooking in the 18th century is caught between medieval cooking, and in medieval cooking, what I do when I think about that, which I haven't studied a ton, is it just seems like it's about a lot of heavy spices. And then we've got French cooking, and that turns into modern cooking, right? And so what's going on here is we're caught in between medieval and we're caught in between modern, and we're trying to figure out where we fit. There's still kingly food, there's still high table food, there's obviously poor people food, and now we have a middle class that is developing more than maybe it ever has, especially here in the colonies, because we're kind of breaking the rules and we're doing a new thing over here. And so we're figuring out where everybody fits, and because of that, we have cookbooks that are coming out, and they're coming at it from a completely different angle than they have classically. So we do have highly cookbooks that are for the court or the king's kitchen. And then we have the lady's assistant, this is for the lady of the house. And the lady of the house probably isn't doing the cooking, she's probably ordering the cooks to cook. She's kind of the person that's orchestrating the structure of what keeps the house clean, tidy, well-fed. But we are considering more and more what it's like to cook in an individual household, and there are cookbooks that are coming out to simplify cooking and to make sure that people are well-fed and have good food at home. Now, where do sauces come into this? Is this a rich thing? Is it a poor thing? And the truth is everything, but it depends on what you call a sauce. So you'll have all sorts of delicacies, right, on the rich side of things. But it's interesting on the poor side or the meager side, or maybe even just people that are not normally in a meager situation, but they find themselves in that, like Joseph Plum Martin when he's at war. He writes about anything other than meat seems to be a sauce for him, and he's constantly asking for a sauce. And that's probably because the quality of his meat is so bad that he wants something to slab over top of it so he can choke it down. And I understand that, but when you think about it, if you boil carrots and you mush those up, that's a sauce. That's like a puree that we have in a restaurant now. I've spent the last 2 weeks going over sauces, and it's been a really interesting study. I'd encourage any one of you to just jump down that rabbit hole, because you'll find yourself all sorts of places. But I've chosen a handful of sauces that I want to try today that might challenge our ideas of what sauces are. They might fit right into something that we're normally eating. And also, I think that they just serve as something really great that folks can make at home. You can make them today and try them tonight. It'd be awesome. So we're gonna get right into this. The first one is egg sauce. Our first recipe today comes from Charlotte Mason's 1778 cookbook, The Lady's Assistant. It's a really wonderful cookbook. If you want one 18th century cookbook, it should be a contender because it's fantastic. Egg sauce. Boil 2-3 eggs hard or more if a great deal is wanted. Chop the whites first, then the yolks with them. Put this into melted butter. This recipe is going to be one of the simplest recipes you could ever make, but it's going to be absolutely delicious. So what you're going to do is hard boil a few eggs. Now just go ahead and give them your water. Once the water starts to boil, set a 6-minute timer. You can let it go a little bit longer, but those yolks are going to start to get harder. Then we're going to peel the eggs, and we're gonna cut them. We're gonna go ahead and try to get the whites off of the yolks. According to the recipe, it wants us to cut them separately. You could probably get away with just cutting them all together because they're all going into melted butter. But before you start peeling those eggs, just go ahead and get some butter on the stove so it can start slowly melting. You don't want to scorch this, just melt it. Now once those eggs are all chopped up and your butter is melted, we're going to combine the two together and your sauce is complete. So here's our egg sauce. It looks strange. I think the concept is strange. I've never had anything quite like this before. Maybe you have. I'm not going to say anything else till I try it. Let's give it a shot. It's not bad or good. It tastes like butter and eggs. If you like butter and eggs, you'll like it. I mean, I like butter and eggs. It's pretty good. I couldn't see somebody spooning this onto their bread, but I don't know why they wouldn't just make eggs and have it with toast. I don't know. But here it is. It's interesting. I don't know for sure because in the cookbooks, it doesn't say what it's supposed to be paired with. So they probably knew exactly what they were doing with this, and it probably went with something very specific, but I have no idea what that was. I just know that it tastes like butter and eggs, and it's pretty delightful. This next recipe is really interesting because they call it a remoulade, which I've always known as a mayonnaise-based kind of cold, creamy sauce, and this is not that at all. And they even, so in the title it says a remoulade, and then it says a marmalade in the description of the dish. And so marmalade, you know, most of us would think, at least here where I live, we think of like an orange jelly kind of thing, like a marmalade, a sweet kind of spread. And so this is neither one of those. This is a horseradish dish that uses garlic. And I think it's super interesting because I haven't seen a whole lot of anything like this spicy wise coming from English cookery in the time period. This is really interesting. I'm excited to try it. Horseradish or mustard sauce. This sauce is made cold with chopped parsley, chible, shallots, a clove of garlic, anchovies, capers, a spoonful of mustard or horseradish, scraped very fine, a spoonful of oil, vinegar, pepper, and salt. First thing we're going to do is chop our onion up. Now, it doesn't give us any indication as to how small the pieces should be or how large they should be, but I want a little bit of body in this, so I'm going to leave them kind of coarsely chopped. We're also going to chop up our garlic and just get all of that into a mixing bowl. Then we're going to add our parsley. We're going to mince that up really fine. We're going to spoon out our horseradish. Mine, I just went ahead and pre-grated. You guys will have to grate some. Then we're going to add our salt and pepper and make sure that everything looks like it's nice and spiced up. Next, we're going to add our vinegar and our oil. I'd be a little light on the vinegar, heavier on the oil. And then we're just going to give it a stir until it seems like it's all kind of incorporated and it's coming together. And you're going to judge how much oil and vinegar to add to this based off of how much dry ingredients that you use. After you get it all mixed up, it's ready to go. This does not look like what I would describe as a sauce. This looks like a slaw, right? And we've done something similar to this on the channel in the barbecue ribs episode where I called it the chutney. Maybe you disagree with me. I don't really know what that word means. It just sounds right. Anyways, this is a slaw. On top, we cooked some chicken. I had some chicken that was left over at the house. I just brought it in today to do tastings with. So we're gonna give this a shot. I'm a little afraid of the anchovies. I've had plenty of dishes with anchovies. This has more. So I got a good piece of chicken and it's got this slaw on it. The smell is awesome. It looks great. I mean, you bring this to the table, it's gonna look wonderful. You can use this as a marinade before you cook your meat and it would be awesome. So this is a great dish. I just don't know about the anchovies. That's awesome. Anchovies disappear into the mix. They're just salty flavor. The parsley comes through. It really has a punch. Tastes very fresh. Crunch comes in from the onions. There's body from the capers. This is this is good. This is a really good slaw. I will use this at home. And I think that I'll marinate some chicken in it before I cook it and then even use it for a topping afterwards. This is wonderful. So we're not gonna make a gravy in this episode because I think gravy is a much deeper subject than just kind of brushing over it real quick. I want to make a gravy episode coming up and also a ketchup episode. But I'll tell you real quick what I found in the gravy sections of these cookbooks is really interesting. So it's interesting how sometimes a word like gravy can mean drippings from meat, and it's that simple. But sometimes a gravy can go all the way as to saying we want veal and we want beef and we want ham and we want essence of ham, and we're going to cook this down. We're going to add a ton of vegetables, carrots, shallots, parsley. We're going to add herbs and vegetables, throw it all at this thing. Then we're going to use some flour to thicken it up, and we're going to triple boil this and run it through a sieve continuously. I mean, some of these gravies are crazy. How can the same word be used universally across all these cookbooks? Meaning, use some gravy, and that could just be drippings from a piece of meat, or this complex thing that took you all day to make. I don't know. And I don't know how they knew in the time period which one people were talking about, because I think they did. And I think that there was just kind of a nomenclature and an understanding that they knew what this recipe was calling for that I don't understand. And I'd like to get there. I'd like to understand it. This is an interesting sauce that we still eat today. My kids, I mean, we would go through gallons of this when my kids were, when they were little. But applesauce, you know, everybody knows applesauce. Everybody enjoys applesauce. There are probably some people out there that hate it, but this one has a twist. It's going to be really interesting. Some lemon, some butter. We're going to figure it out as we go, but I'm really excited about it. This recipe is from the London Art of Cookery. It's from 1787. Applesauce. Pare, core, and slice some apples, and put them with a little water into a saucepan to keep them from burning. And put in a bit of lemon peel. When they are enough, take out the peel, bruise the apples, and add a piece of butter and a little sugar. First thing we need to do on this is go ahead and pare and core some apples, get them into slices. Now you can do this as big or as small as you want to for the whole batch. I just used 3 apples. Then we're going to get that into a frying pan or a saucepan with a little bit of water on the bottom so the apples don't burn. And we're just going to start slow cooking those suckers. While those are cooking, go ahead and get a few pieces of lemon peel and go ahead and put that in there so that the essence of the lemon starts to seep its way into the mixture. When they're done and pretty, you know, they're right there on the edge being mushy, go ahead and take them out. Take the lemon peels out and discard that or use that for another purpose. And then get them into a bowl that you can bruise them in or mash them in. You're going to add butter and you're going to add sugar, and both of those are just to taste. Here's our applesauce, and it looks a lot like applesauce that we're used to eating, except it's creamier, it looks a little richer, and this is going to be richer, probably maybe even a little sweeter than what we're used to because of the added sugar and butter. Now you do add that to taste, so you don't have to make it. I didn't go heavy-handed with the sugar, and I just kind of added enough butter until it wanted to combine really well. Because I think what this is going for, it seems like it's more of a paste than just like when you look at applesauce and you can see all the individual little chunks. So we're gonna give this a shot real quick. Man, it smells good in here. The lemon really came out. So I think this is gonna be a real treat. What's going on immediately is it makes you think of apple pie filling, not what you get in a can. Like when you're actually eating an apple pie and some of the butter from the crust is leaked into the mixture. A lot of times I'll put lemon juice in an apple pie. So this feels really homey. It feels familiar, even though I've never eaten this exactly like this before. It's wonderful. And I can imagine that spreading this on toast, spreading this on crackers would be a really nice treat. I can even see using this alongside like a pork dish or something like that. Really wonderful applesauce. Through all this research for 2 weeks of looking at sauces, I think the thing that I've learned is that we're not so different than we used to be. We like something to tie our plate together. We like bold flavors. I think that we are returning to canning and making our own food. And why not get in the kitchen and use something simple like an egg sauce and say, I've never had something like that before, and just give it a shot. Why not make your own food? Why not just try it? And this is a great opportunity. I hope you guys enjoy.